Hi, my friends. It's teacher Elena, and today I'm going to share a classic Eric Carle story called Mr. Seahorse. And it's about being a parent and how parents can work together to help take care of babies and kids and eggs. Let's read all about it. Look at all these beautiful seahorses. Oh, I wish I could swim with rainbow seahorses. Do you? Mr. and Mrs. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea. Mrs. Seahorse began to wiggle and twist this way and that. It's time for me to lay my eggs, she said. Oh, can I help? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Oh, yes, thank you, said Mrs. Seahorse. And she laid her eggs into a pouch on Mr. Seahorse's belly. I'll take good care of our eggs, said Mr. Seahorse. I promise. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a group of trumpet fish hidden in a patch of weeds. Oh, a patch of reeds, not weeds. Silly teacher Elena. And before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Stickleback? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Delighted, replied Mr. Stickleback. I just built a nest right away. Mrs. Stickleback laid her eggs into it. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch. Keep up the good work, said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a lionfish hidden behind a coral reef. Can you spot the lionfish's eyes hiding in the coral reef? Oh my goodness. And before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Tilapia? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Mr. Tilapia couldn't answer. His mouth was full of eggs. I know, said Mr. Seahorse. Mrs. Tilapia laid her eggs, and now you are taking good care of them until they hatch. Mr. Tilapia nodded his head with the mouthful of eggs. You must be very happy and excited for your babies, said Mr. Seahorse, and he swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by several leaf fish hidden among the seaweed. Can you see two leaf fish hidden behind the seaweed? And before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Curtis? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Perfectly fine, replied Mr. Curtis. Mrs. Curtis laid her eggs, and I have stuck them on my head. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch. You are doing a good job, said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a stonefish hidden behind a rock. Can you see the stonefish hidden behind the rock? This one is very tricky for me. Can you see the eye? Can you see the stonefish's tail? And before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Pipe? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Couldn't be better, replied Mr. Pipe. Mrs. Pipe has laid her eggs along my belly one by one. Boop, 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 boop. Now I am taking care of them until they hatch. You should feel very proud of yourself, said Mr. Seahorse. And he swam on his way. But before we swim on our way, can you count how many little yellow eggs with green dots are along Mr. Pipe's belly? You count them and you tell me how many there are. If you want, you can pause the videos to take your time counting. Very nice. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Bullhead? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Tip-top, replied Mr. Bullhead. Mrs. Bullhead laid her eggs, and the eggs hatched, and we have all these wonderful babies. And now I'm babysitting the little Bullhead babies. You are doing a fine job, said Mr. Seahorse, and he swam on his way. The time had come for the seahorse babies to be born. Mr. Seahorse wiggled and twisted this way and that, and at last the babies tumbled out from Mr. Seahorse's pouch, and they swam away. One baby turned around and tried to come back into the pouch. Oh no, said Mr. Seahorse, I do love you, but now you are ready to be on your own outside of the pouch. Can you count how many baby seahorses there are? You count them and you let me know. Very nice. The end. Very beautiful story. I love that. Very nice. Thank you so much for reading this story with me, my friends. I love the ocean and I love ocean creatures. And I love exploring with them with you. Goodbye, my sweet friends.